sons and daughters. Ooh. You can fall asleep on sheets of gold and wake up as a pauper. We all get old, we all slow down as the walls they close. We fall, we're drowning, I need some breathing space. I won't grow old with grace. I need some breathing space. I can't keep living straight. Oh, we ain't gonna linger and wallow when there's hard cash coming back. No way, I'll just sit here when I know that there's hard cash coming back. Hard cash. Don't want no easy money. Oh no. Money couldn't buy me happiness, just a prettier misery. There's a price to pay for a life of luxury. Oh, the air is thin, the glare, the smoke and the wear within. It tears, it's choking. I need some breathing space. I won't grow old with grace. I need some breathing space. I can't keep living straight. Oh, we ain't gonna linger and wallow when there's hard cash coming back. No way, I'll just sit here when I know that there's hard cash coming back. Hard cash. We ain't gonna linger and wallow when there's hard cash coming back. We ain't gonna linger and wallow when there's hard cash coming back. No way, I'll just sit here when I know that there's hard cash coming back. Hard cash. Don't want no easy money. Oh no. And now that we have all arrived, my friends, get in your cars and drive. And now that we have all arrived, my friends, get in your cars and drive. Gonna drive our blues away. Just another sunny day. Gonna drive our blues away. Just another sunny day.
Hello, Blazor fans. Welcome back to another episode of Blazor State Has Changed. Last week, was it? Yeah, it was last Friday. We worked on some flyout menus ideas, which came out pretty good, but we had some issues. And after the show over the weekend, I was able to fix some of those issues. So I want to show off some of that today. It uses the Telluric animation panel, which is a really, really cool thing. So I'll explain all that in just a few minutes, just giving some folks time to join the show and catch up with where we're at so we don't get too far ahead. Hey, Gorn, welcome back. And hello to you as well, all the way from Algeria. Yes, I am coming to Codepalooza. So I have to get this this app finished up for Codepalooza. I don't know if it's going to be as full featured as I wanted it to be for Codepalooza, but Codepalooza came very quickly. But yeah, I do have a workshop there, and I have some sessions. So I'm going to be really crunching on this this app here that I'm working on. Anime Schmally? Smalley, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So we're gonna jump into the Blazport app here, and we're gonna be working on this a little bit more today. Again, I want to get this done in the next few weeks, at least to where it looks really good, and can be the meat of a presentation. So I've really got to hit some crunch time on this soon. So you may see some changes that aren't recorded on the show, but it's all necessary. But I am going to review some of the stuff that I did while you guys were away. Oh, you've got a workshop in sessions as well. Nice. Nice. What's your workshop about, Binary Chef? So last week we were working on this flyout menu, and it looks almost identical to what we had, except the code that's underlying here is much, much easier and different than it was than when I wrote it on the show. There's a couple reasons for that. So when I initially started making it, I was showing off that the grid has like, this is the Telluric UI data grid. It's amazing. And it has this pop-up editor capability. And the pop-up editor form is really nice for forms over data, as we like to call it. If you're doing a lot of editing of data directly out of a database, this is perfect. It comes out of the box like this, and you don't have to really write any code. It's very low code. You just add some properties to your grid, and it just gives you all this out of the box. That works really well until you hit a very custom form like what we have in our app. So we have calls to databases, a lot of things that are happening between view models and the actual entities that are stored in the database. So I wanted something a little more custom. And I also wanted this editor to fly out from the left-hand side like you just saw here, like this. So what I started with is taking that window component that pops up, and that component itself is available as a window component. So we can take a look at this. And the window component, you can set different dimensions and positioning. And this is kind of where I started. We can center position this thing. We can also offset it to the top left-hand side of the screen. We can full screen it. And then I added some custom animations on top of it, and that's where I started to trip up. The animations were more difficult than I had expected. So I had the flyout animation, and the flyout animation worked fine. It did this. It looked nice. But there were issues when the menu wasn't shown, that I would not have the menu on screen, but I could still access fields for it and submit it. And that was not good. And then what I determined was when I opened the panel, it needed to be visible in the DOM. Obviously, we have to interact with it. But when we close it, I wanted it removed from the DOM so we couldn't access it. And when we did that, the animation to close the window would happen after the window was removed from the DOM, so you never would see the animation. So it just disappear off screen. And it kind of turned into just a catch-22. We were kind of chasing our tail on that thing. Binary Chef, your workshop is on data science with Python, and your other session is on Kotlin. Two very hot topics there. So good job getting those picked at Codepalooza. Python, I haven't done any Python myself yet. If I wasn't in a workshop, I would definitely stop by and check that out, because I've done a little bit of Ruby, which I heard is somewhat similar but I haven't done any Python. It looks really cool, and I love machine learning and data science. So good luck with that. Does Telluric provide a developer license that would be suitable for demos and experiments? Yes and no. So we have a 30-day free trial. The 30-day free trial is perfectly suitable for those things. The problem is after 30 days, you won't receive any more updates or support. The product will continue to work, though. So you can continue with your experiment and your demo. Unfortunately, if there's new components and things that come out after those 30 days, you won't be able to access those. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but it's the best licensing model we are able to come up with right now, and we've kind of tried other things in the past, and they ended up not working out for us. So unfortunately, there isn't like a community license at this time. So it's something we've heard a lot of feedback on, and trying to find a happy medium there has been really difficult. So keep sending that feedback, and we'll see what we can do. Great feedback to have, so appreciate that. But yeah, the 30-day free trial is the best thing I can suggest right now. Remember, that doesn't shut off and stop working. It just shuts off your updates after 30 days. So we were talking about the flyout panel, the collapsing of it. The animation collapsing would fire after the panel was removed from the page. So after the show, I got to thinking, I'm like, well, we are, when I say we, I mean Telluric. We have these different panels and sorts of things that work in a similar fashion. So we have our drop-down boxes. We have other filter menus that pop up, like this calendar, for example, that flies out, flies back. And I don't have this problem with these type of animations. And then I remembered one of our engineers, she came up with this animation container to help with all of these animation issues. And I was like, why am I not using the animation container? So that's what I ended up doing, is using the animation container instead of hijacking the Windows behavior and trying to animate the opening and closing of the window. I just created my own component inside of the animation container, which turned out to be way more simple than doing all that work on a window. So the window has a lot of built-in functionality I wasn't even using, and then I was using it for something that it wasn't intended to be used for. And then just taking the animation container and putting some components inside of it actually did the trick. And it eliminated a bunch of CSS code and a bunch of headaches that I had. So this animation container that we have is really cool. So let me take you for a spin. So the animation container is actually pretty straightforward. So what we have here is a demo, and this is, if you want to check it out, it's at demos.telluric.com. This is all of the animations available to us. So we can have slide in from the left, which is like slide in from the right, or out to the right, is what I'm using for our flyout menu. So this is the animation container right here, and it's kind of hard to see on the white screen here. I wish we had a different CSS style applied to it. Let me zoom in a little bit if I can. Let's come on, zoom tool, Windows zoom tool. I'm so terrible with this thing. All right, so you can see that sliding in, sliding out. So how this animation panel actually works is it will draw the box and then animate the contents within the box. So I'll get to how this this works here in just a sec. I think that's what the question is regarding. So we have these different animations that can happen within this box. So this container can do all sorts of cool stuff, and then we can hook into it. So we can do more advanced things like show tooltips when we hover over something. We can have notifications that pop up, and then time out after a couple seconds, which was another issue that I had, was timing these things. How do you control the timing? Because some of the animation is timed through CSS, but then if you want to add or remove elements through code, it kind of clashes with that timeline. So what the animation panel does to fix all of this is it's already encapsulating that behavior in a known quantity for me. So I have an API surface that I can use now. So the animation panel has a set of functions that I can call, and it has, let's see if I can find it in this example. It has a waitable, so this is nice, an asynchronous method called toggle async that let's see here. Yeah, we can toggle the behavior. We also have show and hide async, so we can asynchronously show and hide animations. So this is what I'm using, and what's really nice here is in this example we have this pop-up show notification. This actually was the same problem I was trying to solve, and I looked at our little code snippet down here, and our engineer, she's put together this demo that says when we show the event by clicking on the button, we call animation container show async, then call StateHasChanged. That signals to Blazor to re-render the component. Then the task delay comes into play. So that allows that animation to happen, and then we hide the animation container after that task runs out, and then call StateHasChanged again. That actually solves the problem that I was trying to hit with this panel opening and closing. So let's look at the code for this guy. Oh, hey, SQL Mr. Magoo, or Blazor Mr. Magoo. No more SQL, eh? We'll throw you some Blazor emojis here. Welcome, and Smab UK. Welcome back to the show as well. So now, instead of hijacking that window component, I have a Flyout panel component. And I have a wrapper class around it. I'll explain what this is in a moment. I still need this class. There's no animations attached to that class like there were last week. I had a similar CSS class. I think it was the exact same name. I just reused it. That had all of my animation CSS in it. That is no longer there. I'll show it in a minute. The animation container now wraps around form header and some child content. So I have a templatable area here that has my form inside of it. You'll see that on the main page. And then I set my animation type on the animation container. So I've got slide right. That's my animation style. I have a reference to it, and that is to supply me with the APIs to show and hide it at my leisure. Then I set the top and left of the animation panel, the height and width of the animation panel. So this is going to draw a box on my page that starts in the left-hand corner and ends 50% of the way in and takes up 100% of the page width. The animation occurs within this box. So remember that I said that a few times now. The animation occurs within the box. So imagine an invisible box right here, and the animation is happening within that box. Okay? Very important. I did reuse the Telluric classes for the title bar that they use on we use on our windows. So these K window, K dialog, these are all just classes I pulled from our window component. So if we look at a window component, I'm just using this. The reason I used these classes is because I want a similar look and feel to this. And I just went in here. You can see these here. K window title bar, dialog title bar, header. If I'm using the theme builder or any of the theming options, when I change the theme, I will automatically get that theming because I'm using those same classes. So I get that right out of the box now that I've reused the CSS classes. So I'm using that for my header. I want that to continue to look the same as the rest of my Telluric stuff that I'm using. Of course, I've got the button to close the panel. So I've got an icon with a close button. I've got a click handler that's going to hide async. So it's calling that hide async function on the animation container. And then I have my content area where my form will go. And then the code for it is simple. Look, this is all the code right here. This is it. This is the magic. Since the Telluric animation container is doing all the work for me, I just needed to call a couple functions here, which I'm just passing the functionality off to the animation container. So I'm just bubbling up this this method to where I can call it from a button click or something else and trigger that animation to show and hide. And then the rest of it is just the title and the content area. So there's almost no code in this whatsoever, which is good for me. Now the CSS part. Let's take a look at this. There were some small hurdles that I had to take care of here. And I'll explain. So I'm going to remove this line of code for a minute, this with right here. And again, with the animation panel, I want to reiterate one more time that it draws this invisible box and animates within that box. So it did come up with one little issue that I had to figure out a solution for, which wasn't too bad, really. Let's close this guy out. I should get a new instance of my app popping up here in a moment. Hopefully I'm explaining this well. It was it seemed like it wasn't a lot of work, but there's a lot of intricacies in how it works. So let's see here. I've got a process. There it goes. Boom. App's running again. Gotta do a quick rebuild there. Actually, probably didn't have to rebuild it to take that CSS out. Force a habit, I suppose. So let's get our page back up. And you'll notice a little bit of difference between the look of our flyout. My nice drop shadow just went away. So you can see the drop shadow. It may be hard to see on the stream, but in the animation process, you can actually see the drop shadow kind of fading in and out of here. So remember, there's a box, an invisible box here. The animation panel, or the content within the animation panel is animated into that box, and it's getting cut off by the edge of that invisible panel. So the drop shadow would exist in this area here on the other side, but it's not shown because the overflow of the animation container won't let that happen. So for a drop shadow to exist within this content, I actually need to make the content just slightly smaller than the animation container itself. So if I come in here, let's do it this way first, and I bring in the width of this. Let's see if I can, oops, I didn't mean to grab that. Come on, Chrome DevTools, work with me. Let's try this again. Just add a new style to this. It won't let me. It is not letting me. There we go. Width. Let's just give it a, there we go. So we can see it this way. So you can see my drop shadow here until I hit that animation panel. So you can see here's the animation container. Let's put a dotted line on that guy. Outline 1 pixel. Actually, let's make it 5. 5 pixels. Let's make it dark. See if we can even do that. Doesn't seem to be working. Border. There we go. So this is my animation container. So now you can kind of visualize how this is working. And when my animation content fills in, it comes across this box. You can see my drop shadow, when it hits this border here, it's going to go away. So I think this kind of gets the point across. Once I hit this area, everything gets clipped off of the right-hand side. So now you can see anything inside of that panel gets clipped off. So that's why my drop shadow wasn't showing. So I was like, I got to figure out how to get that drop shadow visible. So what I did, we'll go back here. Let's refresh this guy real quick, make sure I don't have those boxes showing up anymore. I used a little CSS trick. This is something that's available in modern CSS now. You can actually calculate your values in CSS now. So you call calc, and then you put your calculation within the parentheses. Real easy, real straightforward. So I want 100% of the container minus 20 pixels, which is about the width of my shadow itself. So this is just enough. It brings back the width just enough to show the shadow, which is on the outside of the box model. So if you think about how this looks here, the outer edge of the content, this white panel here, the shadow exists on the outside of the border. So it would actually show on the outer edge. So we need to bring it back by just a few pixels so we can see the drop shadow that is outside the box model. So I should be able to refresh this now and open it back up, and now I have my drop shadow. So that was about the gist of it. Yeah, when Blazor has changed outside the Blazport changed outside with Blazport. Yeah, unfortunately I couldn't do all that on the show. I gotta get this done, and I'm gonna be doing some more stuff. I'm trying to stream as much of it as I can, but the deadline is looming for Codepalooza, so I've got to get this underway. So what I do next is, now I have this component that's very flexible. I have a flyout panel component. I have a title here right now. I think I want to set this to a what do you call it? Template instead. So that was going to be something I wanted to tackle next. Let's see if I've checked in my changes first. So let's double check our GitHub. Yep. So all these changes are checked in. I can start working on something else now. And I think what I want to do is replace this title with an actual render fragment here. And I want this to be title template. So people can put, or I don't know how many folks would be using this, but I can put other things within this this title besides a strong title element. Even though that's what I'm going to be using it for this part of the application anyway. This is probably going to change in other parts of the application. So I wanted to open this up. So that's going to be a title template now. So now I should have a templatable region there. Let's see if that does the trick. So we can go back to our flyout, our admin section here, and pull up that page. And the flyout panel's here, and I have my animation or my form, Hey there, Codebase Alpha. How are you today? Welcome to the show. We're just doing some work with a custom component that I built called a Flyout panel. It uses the Telluric animation container. I also have another feature I want to show here in a minute too that uses that same animation container, which is really cool. Let's see here. So now I should have a title template. There we go. So I love how easy it is to add things like this to Blazor. So I have a title template and strong, and title is going to be, I think I had it just written in there. So it's going to be new. Port is going to be my actual value, and unrecognized content inside of component. Right, I think I'm doing something wrong with my templating here. So the error is unrecognized child content inside of component Flyout panel. The component Flyout panel accepts a child content through top level items. Template and child content. I think what it is, since I have, do I still have a title attribute? I thought I'd get rid of it. That's a notification. That's the wrong thing. On Flyout panel, I think it's because I have two render fragments now. I don't have a title attribute. What I think it is, and I may be wrong, but I think this actually has to be named now. So this has to be Flyout content, something like this. It can't be child content anymore. Yeah, I could have wrote it as child content. I'm going to go ahead and name it, though, so we can Flyout content like that. So when you have more than one template area, it doesn't have any way to discern which part is the just inside of your component. So if you have a default child content, anything inside of the two outer tags is going to be the child content. So anything I put in here is child content. So then when I add a second one and I have this template, title template, then it can't really see whether this is a child content or it's part of the other template. So you have to actually name the content region as well, I think. I think that's what the issue was. Let's see. So if I look, as a matter of fact, I can look at some other components that we have here, and you'll see the same pattern. So I have a window title, and then I also have a Telluric window content where the actual child content is. So it's that's common practice with these components. And so that solves that issue. Nice and easy. And that should re-render with a templated title region that I can add whatever I want to. Flyout panel title equals. I don't have the title. Oh, I gotcha. So I'm still trying to set that title somewhere. I'm still setting the property. I hear you. There it is. Absolutely, that's what it was. On top of the other thing, there was actually two issues. Then it was gonna blow up again once I reran it. Thanks. Let's see who was Coefficient. Thanks for pointing that out. So I had the property up here spelled out as well. Hey, Ancient Coder, welcome back. My Entity Framework guru is back. Let's see, I gotta close this guy, and then I've got this banging for my attention. There we go. Now it should work fine. So I want to explain one other thing once I have this done. Pop ports back up on here, slide that out, and nothing in my UI has changed, and now I can put any content I want in there. This doesn't have to be bold. It doesn't have to be a strong title, which is nice. I like to have the freedom to put whatever I like in there. So if I don't want that to be strong, I can make sure it's any other element I'd like. Good deal. All right. I'm going to go to the, let's see, the components code behind for this page. And in my routine here, I want to show off another use of that animation container, because the animation container is just really cool. It saved me so much time. One of the other things that I was working on, I'm going to take out my code to save this to a database, because I'm going to hack away at the form. And I don't want a bunch of entries in there I just have to blow my database out for again. It's just a quick way to get around having to reinitialize the database after I end the show again. Right, so we're going to rerun this. I'm going to enter some data in the form, and I want to show off the UX for adding data to the form now, because that was something else I debated over on last week's show. So the debate was, and this was more of an internal debate. I don't know if it was so much of a discussion in the chat room as it was with myself. It was, if I add a record and I go through the form, and none of this is going to save, so I'm just going to put gibberish in here, just dot through it, and I hit save. How do I want to handle the save and show that it has successfully saved an item? Because if I save and then it just disappears the form off the screen and I don't really show anything here, then you have to kind of scroll through and see if your element landed in the form somewhere. So what I decided to do is add, last week I added a message here and then forced the user to close the panel. Well, now what I can do with the animation container is I can manually or automatically close the panel, and then this. Boom, new item saved. That will disappear on its own. So now I know that item saved. So how did I do that? Well, I created a quick notification component, and the notification component just uses that same animation container that I used for the flyout panel. So it's kind of the same idea. Give it a width and a height. I also have a wrapper around it to kind of help center it, because it's absolutely positioned. It's really easy to do. And then actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I may not even need that, but that is how I just dragged something somewhere. That's how I solved it while I was working on it. And then I have some CSS classes that wrap it. So now I've got this little notification area, and it is basically a Telluric animation container, and it has a show task that I can initialize, and it will show and hide the notification all by itself. Oh, you're welcome, Coefficient. Yeah, Calc is really cool. I don't remember when this was added to CSS, but it's there now. I think that came with variables. Variables are still something that is in CSS that I never use because of Sass, but I got to take a look at that again and revisit sometime. So I can set the title and the color of my notification area. Color was a name that I wasn't too happy with. I still don't know exactly what I should call it, but there are these notification colors that are built into the Telluric UI, and they're basically the same as the ones that are in Bootstrap. So if you look at Bootstrap, for example, we have these same exact styles in the Telluric UI for Blazor, because these are very popular styles in Bootstrap, and they actually aren't additional styles. They just inherit from Bootstrap. At least in this scenario, they do. Let's see, is it alert? Yeah, these styles here. So I called it color, but it basically tacks on whether it's primary, secondary, success, info, etc., and styles that notification box for me. So it just tacks that on to a CSS class. So I'm not sure if color is the right terminology there. It's probably something I'd like to change and make that a little more clear, so people wouldn't pound in like just CSS, RGB, whatever colors. They know it needs to be a class name. But it did work for the time being. So when we close the panel, we have this notification component that pops up. And then I'm going to trigger that notification to show. So I need to take a quick reference to it so I can call that API. Then I set the title and the color to success. I know that bothers me. Success isn't a color. I need to figure that one out without making it overly verbose, right? So it needs to be CSS something. I don't know. I need to figure that out. And then it has a child content region, so I can make it say whatever I want it to say. And then that's going to pop up and disappear after a given time, which that time is actually built into the notification. That's something else I should probably put in a variable somewhere we could set to a duration if we wanted to override that behavior. But what's really cool about it so far is that we can enable that. It will pop up. And since we can set the color, if we wanted it to fail, I could set it to warning, I think is the correct thing. Like I said, this coloring scheme needs to change. I could actually put those as an enum maybe, but the only problem with that is if I customize it and I create my own coloring scheme that I want to use with it, then I can't do that. So I like it as a string as well. There's some little helpers that we can use to deal with that. Believe it or not, just creating a read-only property of a string will handle that for us. That's actually how I built the Telluric UI for Blazor icon component. Let's see here, admin ports. So now when I run this, and it's going to say success, but it's going to be red. Just wanted to show that it could be a fail. Oh, yellow. Chose the wrong one. So warning is yellow. Destroy or danger. I knew it started with a D. Danger would be the red box. So I could make that box any color I want, is the point. And I could say that when I save, if for some reason the save failed, then I can change the color of the box and just display a different notification. SimSim9000, thank you for following the show. Appreciate it. Oh, my volume is a bit low for folks. Is that? Let me check my settings here real quick. Either I'm not talking directly into the microphone or something has changed with my setup. I know I've had either I'm not speaking. Yeah. All right, let's try this. Move my mic up just a little bit. It was set back just a little bit more than normal. And also Windows. I'm going to blame Windows, not JavaScript this time. It has a habit of changing my volume settings. Let's see here. Levels. See, it's set at 75. I usually have it set at about 80 something. And every once in a while it will decide to change on its own and go down. Sometimes even way more than that. I'll look at it and it'll be like 20%. And I have not gone in there. I've not touched it. I don't know if it's an app that's doing it. Thanks for letting me know, though, so I could fix it. So those little details are always important for the show. Appreciate that. Slow for almost all. Okay, so President not sure. If it is a common problem amongst all things, then turn your volume up. I'm just teasing. But it may be, if it's on all of the streamers, check the Twitch at the bottom left-hand side, little slider. Make sure it's all the way up. Usually if it's a common denominator, we can solve that way. So we've got our flyout panel. I'm going to set my, let's see here. I jumped around a lot. I've got a lot of things going on here. I'm going to revert this change back, take this await back in and put it. I want to save data again. I'm done messing around with my form. I think I explained away all the things that I did. I should have just tried to start a show, I think, and just did everything there, but I was in go mode. I had music going, and I was concentrating hard on how can I fix this problem, because it was really annoying me. Let's tackle this notification thing real quick. That one's standing out to me as a low-hanging fruit that I can take care of. So flyout panel, notification. I'm probably going to have a couple notifications here that that I want to set color to. I don't like the word color. So yeah, Blazor is pretty slick. Yes, the Telluric components are now part of your Progress subscription. If I had anything to do with that. So it was an internal debate. I think that all of our customers had something to do with that change. It was something that was on the table, always on the table. And part of it was just a matter of how to roll it out successfully. We made it available to the top tier subscriptions first and then rolled it down. And it took a while just to get the licensing agreements written out properly. So I think we threw lawyers under the bus pretty hard last show. That happened. Yeah, we did have some lawyer discussions last show. But that actually was probably more to do with it than anything. It's just getting the verbiage correct in all of those agreements. So new products are hard, but I'm glad it's in your toolbox now. So good stuff. That makes it more widely available. I know like the community license is really a sticking issue with some folks, but the low end subs for bundles for the Telluric UI really isn't that expensive either. If it's a hobby thing, I totally understand. If you're using it for any type of work, it's going to save you time and money. That's just my opinion. And when it's in all the bundles like that, it makes it super easy to get a hold of. So let's see. I want to take this notification area here, and I want to give the user, the developer, a way to set this color, which I'm going to come up with a new name. Naming things is hard, and I'm not good at naming things, I don't think. So we're gonna come up with a new name, and we're also gonna come up with a little helper. So I'll show you what I did with the this isn't supposed to be like the Telluric show, but I did use Telluric Components forever before I joined the company a couple of years ago. So I've used Telluric Components most of my dev career. So this isn't anything that I wouldn't normally do, even if I didn't work for the company. I'd still be using this stuff. So if I do a Telluric icon, so this is a component that I wrote, Telluric icon. Ignore the namespace. I'm not going to keep this in here. I have this icon name, and I can say at icon name dot. And now I get a list of all the icons. This is actually a really simple thing that I did to make this user experience, developer experience available. It's just a constant string. That's it. Just a constant string. And now I've got a list. So the way that we can do this really easily is inside of our notification. We'll try putting it here first. We can say public const string equals, and then this will be a good pagination for example for Blazor server side. Pagination with what scenario? In a grid? I can help you with that one. We don't have our paging component ripped out of our grid and available outside of our grid. That's something that you could suggest. I don't know if I've seen. I would look at. I'm trying to think how to get to his stuff. I can never. Let's see. It's going here. Let me pull this off screen. I think I might have an example. Hang on. Twitter, and it's going to be. I think Lapusa has an example. See if I can find his web page. His web page is a 404. Lapusa, if you're watching, try fixing your Twitter profile because your URL is busted. Let's see. I've had his content on the show before, so I'm trying to figure out. I know he's got some. Here we go. Here we go. I think I got it. All right. Nope, that's a gist account. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look something up, and I didn't want a bunch of private messages showing on screen. This is what I'm trying to get here. I know he's got some stuff that would likely. There we go. Blazor projects. All Blazor demos. For pagination. He's got all kinds of stuff in here. There's a virtual grid example. It doesn't have a pager in it, though. Well. Yeah, I don't see. I'll put this in the chat room, though, so if you're curious, you can look at it. But, yeah, you can post links, Coefficient. Go ahead. If I haven't had anybody spamming the chat room with inappropriate links so far, so I've kind of turned off the bot severity a little bit. So that one works. Oh, good. Nice link. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, there's like an article and everything there. Good find. Good find. Blazor paging component. Yep. Very good. We've got one built into our data grid. It'd probably be handy to have it outside of the data grid. I know it's probably something we're considering, but I don't know any roadmap status on it. But it looks like that component of that little individual piece of the grid probably isn't that much of a build, considering it's in an article. Good stuff. So I was trying to make a little API surface to pick these colors. And let's see. Actually, I want to do it in an external class here. So I'm going to say, let's create a new class. New item. The reason I'm putting it in a different class is so it is a reusable piece that we can access outside of a notification. Notification theme. Is theme the right name for this? Let's think. I don't know of any other component right now that has these. I don't want to say color because color isn't notification. What are they called in Bootstrap? Style, contextual class. Like what is the nomenclature for primary, secondary, success, danger? What do we call that? Notification style. I'll just call it style. I don't know what else to call it. Type. Type in C# is going to kind of give a conflicted meaning too. I'll just call it style for now. Notification style. And then style kind of refers to CSS as well. I don't know if that's... I have to commit to something here. So we'll do a static class. And then we'll make this public static. Ooh, what's it doing? Static string. There we go. Oh, actually, public static constant string. I think that's it. It's very, very wordy, but it works. Then we could say success. I think this is how I wrote it. Whoops. Nope. Something's not happy here. Cannot be marked static. Maybe it's just... I think constant may be static already. Is that right? This class is static, so that because it's public and it's constant, then it is also static. So we don't need the static. Constant string warning theme colors. Maybe theme works. Let's do theme. I like that. Theme public const string. Let's see. What's the other major one? The red was danger. These are just syntactic sugar. This is all this is. Hey, Kriskin 1978. Hello, how you doing? Extended it before? Yes. So danger, warning, success. Info is another one. Info. These actually don't even need to be notification themes. We can just say theme. And then this is going to be under our Blazor components folder. So that, I think, should do it. And then we'll just call that a theme there as well and change the notification to theme. Now we have something that's a little more intelligent that we can use. Any good example on creating a Blazor client NuGet package? when you say client, do you mean client-side Blazor that leverages JavaScript API for Blazor? Not sure what makes it specific to a client, but I don't have an example that uses JavaScript interop exactly. But I did do a live show a few months ago where we built and published a NuGet package. So that may help. Other than that, I'm not sure. Chat room, you feel free to post any links you have. To check if the user has internet access. That I haven't seen. You would definitely have to use some JavaScript to do that. I would first look into the interop at docs.microsoft.com. So docs.microsoft.com. Let's navigate to ASP.NET. Let's see here. Where's Blazor? Under this, get started with ASP.NET Core. Okay, so Blazor, and then we want, these are all tutorials. It's Blazor.net. Blazor.net. Documentation. Docs.microsoft.com/Blazor. That's where I thought we were, but JavaScript interop. These are two separate questions that actually are, it's actually three now. So this is the starting point. That answers question one, is how do you actually get that interop working? So there's docs for that. As far as PWAs, I think there's a template coming for PWAs, but there currently isn't anything out of the box. That you'll have to build on your own. There may be some blogs about it. There is an example by Steve Sanderson. Oh, you have the PWA already working. I don't know about how to check. You can check for internet connection with JavaScript, I'm sure, somehow. There's tons of stuff on Stack Overflow, I'm sure. Navigator.online. So there's probably some browser APIs that do it. If not, you could try to request a resource and then see if if you want to create that NuGet package and publish it. I was just looking at the show that I did a couple months back, because NuGet packages themselves are very easy to create and publish. The process, though, can be pretty grueling. Just naming the package alone was an issue for me. So if you go to blazorvideos.com, it will redirect you to my YouTube page, and there are some videos that you could probably watch at like 2x speed. I think one of them's probably about 2 hours long, so you might want to dart through that one a little bit. But there was one in particular that was about publishing something to NuGet. Radio buttons and NuGet packages. This might be it. This might be it here. So yeah, Mr. Magoo's right on. Like, I had a bunch of caveats with that. Putting Blazor in the name, Blazor dot anywhere in the name of the component, the utility, the namespace, causes a ton of headaches. So anyway, we added some little helpers to our component here, and we should be able to come back now. And this is not color anymore. This is going to be theme equals at notification. Oh, I changed it from notification to theme. So I need to rename this class here. Rename. Did it rename? Right click, actions, move, rename type. No, I don't want to rename type. I want to rename the file. Theme equals at theme dot. So I'm missing a namespace. I'm going to put, so the namespace for the component is slightly different than, so this is blazeport.components, but the actual component is going to be something else. So we need to add it to our imports. Not that one. I want to go lower. And we'll do using blazeport.components and save. And let's see if that did it. Now we should have theme dot. Nope, still don't have. There it goes. Theme dot. Now we have a strongly typed way to write this. So now I can say, give me the theme success. Now we have an API. Yeah, Mr. Magoo's advice is spot on about naming your NuGet package. On that show, I don't know if it's the exact one I linked. If it's not, there's another one that follows up on it. I actually upload on the live show to NuGet in the NuGet application, and then go through the iterations of how to test that your package works, the description is showing up the right way, and all of that. Which the best advice I think I have is to create your project, add the NuGet portion of it, which I think is in your settings. If you go to settings, properties, this would be on the project that you want to publish. And is it on build? There's actually a checkbox in here, application, that will say create a NuGet package on build. And then you don't have to worry about all the command line-y stuff. There it is. So there's package. So I right-clicked, went to properties, package tab, generate NuGet package on build. You'll check that. You'll fill in all of this. This will create a manifest file, and then it will build. It'll create a new spec. It'll create a new pack. Then you upload that to the NuGet server when you think it's ready. The problem is that it doesn't always look the way you would expect it to from the metadata that you added. So what I always do is open another project, and a brand new project of the type of application that would consume your package, like a Blazor app. Go to Manage Packages. Then under Package Source, you want to open the gear. You want to find the, you want to add a new item. And then you can see here's one that I was using. So you navigate to the folder where Visual Studio drops that NuGet package. Then you want to add that, and then add the package to a project, and see how it lists inside of this window. If you're using DevOps, you can create and build scripts. If it's something you're doing frequently, DevOps is a great direction to go. But usually these things are like a one-off hobby project for me. So I always manually just add it like this. This is my package for CSS Builder. Then I can come into Browse, and I can say CSS Builder. And I can ensure that I get the one from my... there it is. And then I can check my description and make sure it reads the way I want it to. The version is showing up. And I have an icon that shows for my package. Then I can install it and make sure that the actual files that I intended to deploy to the application are there, and do a little bit of a manual check that way. And then when you're not in that type of dev mode, you can just come back and uncheck it, and it will disappear off of your NuGet package list. So I do that on the show. So check that video out, and that helps a lot. So now I've got a reusable notification panel with a theme that I can set, and I can customize. So what's nice about this approach is I have my theme. It's just a string, but I do have some syntactic sugar around it, so I can come in and get IntelliSense and just hit Control J, and I can say, oh, I want danger info, yada yada yada. But if I want to customize it and put something in here, then it's just a string, and I can say my theme here, and then it'll apply that instead. So that's the nice part about not using an enum here, which I could totally have done. This is another approach that leaves it a little more flexible, since it is CSS. If it wasn't CSS, if it was some other type of rendering system that doesn't allow that capability, then I'd probably just hard code it with an enum. But CSS, man, it's very flexible. I don't want to lock that down to an enum without any other way to set that theme. So now I can use this notification, and I can duplicate this. And now if there's an error, I can show an error. I might actually be able to reuse the same one as well and just add different properties to it, since I already do have a reference. But then there's this body content. Things get a little weird there. So it's not a big deal if I want to put a fail notification as well. So I could say fail, error is the title, and the theme is danger on that one. This one needs to be success. See how quick and easy that was? I don't have that component defined yet, so I need to add that. Then I can put my message here: failed to add item to database. I'm not giving the user any help, but at least I at least I told them it didn't work. So that, yeah. All right. So the UX stuff will come eventually. We're getting there, a little bit at a time. So a couple more things I need to do to enable this is I have my flyout, my notification. I need to duplicate my notification, and I need a fail notification. So now I have my fail notification component. And when I do my database save, I'm trying to remember how to do this. I know I've got experts here in the chat room. Try catch around an async save. Am I doing this correctly? This is something I haven't seen in a little while. Save changes async. Let's Google this real quick just to make sure I got this syntax right. Try catch save changes async. Probably a very common thing. Stack Overflow. We will see what the answer is. I'm doing this and that. Well, this isn't going to be a RESTful scenario, so that question doesn't apply. Let's see if there's any more. Check if result is greater than 0. The task contains the number of objects written to the underlying database. Ah, okay. So yeah, it would be. So we should be able to wrap it in a try-catch then, I would imagine. Don't know how to check. I don't know how to validate that this works. Haven't done this part in a while. Done the whole try-catch thing around DB save. So we shall see. But what we can do here, the idea is that we will show a fail notification if that does fail. So now we have our await. We throw the error. Let's see. There's probably some cleanup that we'd want to do on that catch as well. We wouldn't want to clear the form and so on. I probably should research that a little bit more and implement it properly, but this is the idea. We'll take a look at that. I'll get the best practices on that, and we'll come back. We'll circle that back to that. The main thing was to show that we could do a fail notification. So we have a fail notification. Whether it's handling the situation correctly is another question. So that's where our theme little bit would get used. Is now we can set multiple, sorry, I'm trying to clear out some tabs here. Now I can set notifications that come up and show application status. So we'll form some best practices around that, but for now that's how I'm going to leave it. If it's a failure, it's going to pop that window, I hope. I don't know how I can trigger that without taking the whole app down. I could take the database offline. I could try forcing it to insert a record that already exists or something, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'll look it up. I'll read some docs. I'll come back to it. But that's our notification in a nutshell. I'm going to end up using the Flyout panel a little bit more. Sorry, I thought I had my app open. And I want to put the app on, or the Flyout experience on the main page. And I want to clean up this form that I've got. I think I may break down the form into several steps that you kind of navigate through. So what I think I might want to show on this screen, instead of the dates and all these data points to enter, this isn't very user-friendly. Now that I've got my Flyout panel developed, what I think I want to do is show the date that you're traveling. If you haven't selected one yet, we'll provide an area to click on, and that will extend the panel. You pick your date. Then when you're done picking your date, panel will go away, display the date. If you want to change the date, you click the panel, flies out, pick your date again. I think that is what I want to do with this. So we would display all of the information that we have selected in our Flyout panel and then get our ticket. I think that's how I want to handle it. I also want to fix these drop-downs eventually too. I'm waiting on a feature to be added to the Telluric UI components. I think this is on a roadmap. I can't confirm that for sure, but people have been asking for our drop-down list to be a combo box. Do I see a good career being an early adopter of Blazor? That's a good question. So let's think about that. I think enterprise will be slow to adopt. So I don't know in the short term if you'll find that there are a lot of jobs for Blazor. but I think the ones you do find might be willing to pay more money to have somebody that is ahead of the trend and understands the technology to build a team. So I would say it probably would leverage on the fact of what other experience do you have. So if you're brand new to development in general, and you don't have a lot of experience with C# and you're a new junior dev, then being an expert in Blazor right away may not help you in the short term. It'd be more of a long-term proposition. But if you're a senior dev and you have the ability to build a team and a lot of experience with .NET and C#, then you could potentially be looking for employment where a company is ready to start a new Blazor project and build a team around it that you could lead. That would be short-term success. Long-term, I think it's good either way to be an early adopter of Blazor. I think it's going to take off pretty well. Just general .NET experience around it, I think would help. Hope that helps answer your question. Anyway, that's just my opinion, one person's opinion of that scenario. I was trying to think of it realistically. It is very new, so you're gonna see companies looking for people that can build out a Blazor app, but I think they're gonna want other experience levels with it. So the drop-down list. I've got this cascading drop-down right now. And what I think would make a better UX, and I don't have this available yet, is I think if this was a combo box, I could actually collapse this down into one. These are actually paired up, by the way. So departure, port of travel form one valid input, and destination and entry are the other. So this is where do I leave from? Where do I stop? And I think if these were a single drop-down box that allowed you to search instead of select only, then I could combine and flatten the data. And I could say all of these locations belong to the Earth departure area. And all of these ports belong. So they could be Earth hyphen and then the port name. And then you could type in the combo box and it would then search through and only display the items. Much like, I think Delta does this. Most airline things, I think, do this now. So instead of actually just picking, you pick your place, the from. So from, you actually type in here. You don't select things. So if I wanted to fly from Louisville, it then drops down a box there. I think that would be a better experience there. But I think I'm going to use Flyout panel possibly to do these. So you'll select, that's actually pretty close to what I was thinking about. You select your items and they'll fly out. You pick your dates. You pick number of passengers. And then you commit to your selections. So I think that's the way we'll probably handle this instead of having a big form here. But the form was initially here to exercise the fact that we have validation and we can call our machine learning model and get value back. Mr. Magoo, we will catch you next, or actually tomorrow, hopefully, if you have time. I'm going to work on this some more tomorrow. So take care. But I want to transition these over to the Telluric. It'll be a combo box, not a drop-down list to do that. So I'll wait on that. I think that's going to come out by the time we're done with this, but I think I can make this a little easier by paring these down into flyouts. So let's do a little example of how that would work. Let me commit my changes I have so far. Changes. Let's see, what changes did I do to my flyout panel? I added a template title to my flyout, added themes to notification, and I'm misspelling this tremendously, themes, and let's see, added a fail notification. Commit those, and we will publish these. Push this branch up. And what I will actually do here too is I'm going to merge that into my master and push that as well. Branches, master. We will then merge from the refactor admin. Merge that. Cool. And I'm going to go back to refactoring my index page. Let's go to the index, refactor index. And we will also merge that one from master. So we're going to start at a new point in our index refactoring. So we're going to go back to working on the index page here. That's all good. I'm going to go ahead and push the master up as well. So everything on the GitHub page should be aligned with what we're working on. And now we're on a fresh branch, or an updated one anyway. Come on, give me my UI back. Oh, I may have to actually reload the project because of all of that Git work I just did. Let's try, let's go home. Click solution. Visual Studio's hung up on me here. It doesn't want to switch back to my, what's it called? It doesn't want to give me my Solution Explorer back. I done broke it. Just reload it. That should make it happy. As long as everything's on Git, I'm good. I can always go back and pull it back down if I break something severely. It's always nice to have that. All right. So we'll collapse this guy all the way down. Always crashes? Huh. I've done plenty of stuff and not had too many issues in Visual Studio, so that's surprising for me to hear. I was using the GitHub app for a while, and that's a nice visualization too. The command line, I'm perfectly good with the command line as well. So I use this PowerShell conemu setup, which I love, and I blogged about. It's still out there somewhere. What's nice about the conemu setup here, and you could do this with any PowerShell thing, is, oh, see that? Refactored index never, oh, I'm in that branch, it's not pushed. What's nice about this is I get the status right here in my console, which I like, but I'm just comfortable with doing it here. I don't have to leave my IDE. So sometimes when you jump branches a lot and there's major changes between those branches, it will drop the Solution Explorer, and for some reason it has a hard time bringing it back up. And that's what it seemed to do, but just reloading it's fine. I'm being forgiving today. I'm not going to burn it at the stake. Mistake. All right, so index page. So what I want to do, I think, this is just a thought experiment for now, is I have this big edit form, but I want to simplify it out. I'm not sure if it needs to be in a form per se just yet, but we'll go through the idea here. And let's put, I don't know if it should be a button, a field. I want to show a date. It'll probably actually be a complex view. That was a good question there. It is, and I'm talking with the question here by Blue Spider 7. That was PoshGit is actually what that was called. It is a PowerShell plugin, commandlet, whatever they're called. Yeah. So that was PoshGit. That looks exactly like my command line there, if you can see on the stream. PoshGit, and then, I don't know if this is the official fork of it. File environment for Git. Yeah, that seems to be it. So PoshGit is the command line piece of it. And then what's nice about conemu is conemu has tabs. So I can have multiple command lines open if I want to. I can just hit new here, and I get tabs. So if you're doing JavaScript work, I feel sorry for you. But what you can do is you can have your run watch in here, and then on this screen you can have something else going on, maybe where you're typing in scripts that have to run. You're doing npm. Installs or whatever, but they're on the same folder, and you don't want your watch is locking up your console, so you don't have to keep trying to fiddle with that. You can just go back and forth between your tabs. So I like that feature of it. Then you can also have other presets that you can set up, tasks, whatnot, and it's very customizable as far as font size, colors, opacity, all sorts of stuff. So, another nice feature of it is it's in the settings. I don't remember where. Try not to make this a PoshGit show, but what you can do is right click anywhere this isn't a folder. You right click on any folder, and you can say CLI here, and it will navigate directly to that folder inside of your console. So I like that feature as well. So conemu is really cool. Find all the bits on that. It is how to be a CLI artisan is the article name. That search didn't work. I'll search for my name. Wrote a blog on it. There it is. Become a CLI artisan on Windows. Boom. There's lots of good terminals out there, apparently. And I know there's a new one in Windows as well. I haven't given it a spin yet, but it looks really nice. But there's lots of good tips in here that apply to probably any console. There's stuff about Visual Studio Code and all sorts of cool stuff in here. So give that a read. That's an oldie but a goodie. That's one that I really enjoyed writing. Talks about chocolatey and some other stuff in there too. Alrighty, so I want to display a thing on this page. I'm going to start with a button. It may not stay a button. I'm going to start with a button. The event handler is going to be, I don't have an event handler yet, but this will display my date. We'll just say date for now. So I'm going to have a element that I click, whether it's a button or not, I don't know yet. And when I click that button, I want a flyout panel, and then I want my calendar in that panel. So let's set that up. So inside of my form, I'm going to collapse this down so it's out of our view here. I want a flyout panel like that. And then the flyout content is going to be a Telluric calendar. And I don't have the namespace imported yet. And I'm going to put this in my imports because I don't want all these at the top of my view. There's just too many. Calendar. So now I have calendar and scope. Calendar's lit. Actually, I can use a self-closing tag here. And title template is going to say pick a departure date, and then we're going to fly out the calendar. So our button needs to have some needs to have a handler to tell this flyout to open. So then I can come in here, and when I click on that button, I will have a method that runs. Hopefully what I can end up doing is collapsing all this down into little component bits, and then my view won't be so big and it'll be easier for the user to navigate. That's my hope. Public void on date. Clicked. And when I click my date, I need to capture a reference to my flyout panel. So let's come down here at the bottom. We'll do this and say protected. And then we have a flyout panel. This will be my date panel. Oops, I don't want to new it. I want to get it, set it, getter setter. And this actually needs to be a parameter. So I have a parameter that is a protected flyout panel of date panel that will automatically get set by Blazor. Then I can say date panel dot show async. That will cause it to fly out. But I need to await that since it's async. And then await all the way up the chain. Oops, async task. There we go. That should do that. I now need to set my button to handle that. So we'll say on click, date clicked. So now we have an event handler to that button. When we click it and it's angry at me, cannot convert on clicked to delegate type object. Yeah, so getting you back to Blue Spider there. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, people might assume that was out of the box. It's good to point out that it was PoshGet. What am I doing wrong here? So my on-click event. Do I have the right on-click here? Yeah, on-click. I can't trigger this. Why? I intend to... Oh, no, that shouldn't be... Is it going to make me really put a lambda expression in here to do an on-click? I thought we could just handle an on-click event normally. Like if I did public foo, void foo, is it going to hang me on that? Or is it because it's async? It doesn't like that either. They change something with button clicks in Blazor that I'm not aware of? Why is it giving me such a hard time? Do I need to have UI event args or anything in here? Change event args. Call it E. Is it an event args thing? Oops, I don't want UI event args there. I want date clicked. On date clicked. Had tons of problems working with Blazor Hobby Project. That's not good. That is not good. This thing is annoying. Why? I've got other button click events going on. If I look, matter of fact, if I look at my Flyout panel itself, let's see, components, Flyout panel, it's got a button. I'll use Telluric buttons. Forget this thing. This is annoying. Although I'm not sure I want it to be a button. On click. On date click. Well, there we go. We just broke everything. That makes me wonder if there's another issue. I'm going to close Visual Studio, reopen. Yeah, I think Visual Studio, I think the Razor compiler might have been hung on something. So we will try this. We will reboot. We'll try turning it off and on again. We are in error mode. Let's see if we can pull the nose up on this thing. All right. So we're doing things in the background. Look at all this. Don't know if this is all stuff we need. We're running analyzers. Yay. All right. We have lots of red squigglies, less red squigglies. Still cannot convert method group to event callback. I'm using the same thing in my Flyout panel. Why is that giving me a headache here? No @ symbol is required for one. Let's yank that out of there. I don't think that is it though. I've got hide async on click here. Hide async is a async task. Async task. Let me pull this out now. Don't know if that was necessary. There, that worked. All right. So I have a button I can click that will load my date picker. All right. Control F5. Let's try this again. I realize I've got a foo void in there too still. We'll get that later. We'll do some cleanup after this is done. Let's close out some windows we don't need. Take my OBS previews down. There we go. Get a little more oomph out of the machine here. Oh, lordy. All right, that button went bonkers because of the placement, I'm assuming. And my Flyout panel doesn't work either. What did I do? Let's pull it out of this row. It's inheriting some kind of class from somewhere I don't like. So we've got that there. There's our Flyout panel. I don't think I have any settings on the Flyout panel that need to be set. It should have worked. Let's look at how I implemented this on my port page, my admin page. I have a Flyout panel. Oh, I need to ref it. That is why it did not show. I don't know why the button was all wonky, but ref equals date panel like that. So that gives me access to it. I'm sure I could also set visibility to a flag and toggle it. This ref thing that works via code just works easier. If you're using MVVM and you're cringing that I'm doing that, I'm sorry. Date, boom, there's our flyout, there's our date. Nice calendar. We can pick a date and then we can have it zoom back like that. So the idea is to get rid of this box. Instead of the input, have a flyout show up. I need to put in some sort of adjustment possibly for the size of the flyout panel as well. So I don't think I need all of that panel. It probably needs to be a quarter of that size, or half of what it is now, a quarter of the app. Just enough to give us our departure date that we can pick. Then when we pick an item, it will collapse. And then we can go on to passengers, and then it will fly out passengers, and so on. One thing it'll do is allow us to have scope into these drop-down boxes and only show what we need. Like it'll make this look nicer, be a cool little UX. These are common UX patterns that you'll see on like Xbox and in games and stuff. So it's not too far. It's not something that's so off base that users are going to look at it and go, what the heck is going on? Let's see here. So I want to have something kind of like bold, like your departure date. So I don't so much want a button. Let's see if we can do this. Just messing around here. I don't know if I want it to actually be an H2. I'd want it to be, let's do a div for a second. Let's give it a class. Let's not give it a class. Let's say it has an on click of, it would show, there we go, date. On date clicked. I need my at for this one. On date clicked. It's not barking at me now. I don't have a red underscore there. Oh, now it showed up. I had to say something. So why is this thing such a pain? I don't understand what happened in Blazor, the last update maybe. They changed something with the way we call methods from onClick. Doesn't like that either. Cannot convert Amanda because, oh holy. Reference, why am I getting this issue? Let's go to Blazor documentation real quick. I don't understand the onClick thing. Components, forms, layout, get started, building your first app. Like, okay, here's just the what do you call it? Oh, okay. I see what I'm doing wrong. This is what changed. It's backwards now. This is going to throw me off. I've been doing Blazor too long that things have gotten, they've changed to where the ats have moved around. So now the at symbol goes before the onClick and not in the value. That's what it was. That was in the, oh, Smab, you got it as well. So, yeah, thank you. So we'll do that. And then I don't know if I want a text box or how I want this put up here. Let's see. I'm going to put H2 for now. I'm not going to keep it in H2. That's not semantically correct. But I do want it to be large. Let's see. Let's put form dot. Because I do have a form on the page still. Form. So, nope, date. I don't have a date on the form though. This is a bit disjointed. I've hacked away at too many things here. Let's see. We've got models, form models, trip configuration. Oh, trip start. I do have a date in there. Trip start. So we will grab our trip start value, place it there. If we don't have a date, it's probably going to default to 1. It'll probably look weird. So let's see what that does. And then I'm going to put in here role equals button. Not banner, button. Role equals button to signify that this is a clickable thing. There's a whole debate on whether you should put clickable stuff, click events on things that are not buttons. We are going to ignore that for now. We're doing our own thing. This is not a real world app yet. So now I can click on my date, set that. I'd love to automatically close it on the date selected, but and then we want to, of course, have some text here that says your trip date. So you can then click. You might want to give some visual cues that you can click this as well. I really like the way the Delta one shows up. Want to have something similar. Departure, depart. So they've got the word depart in a calendar. And then when you click on it, see how that works? I like that. Refresh that page. So the date displays where the word depart is. We don't have a return date on ours. You're not getting back. We're sending you to the moon and you are not returning. That's just the way that the app is going to work for now. Is it's only one-way type trip bookings by design. So we would have to have something that says if it is, we can actually do this in code here, even though it may not stay this way. That, because date has a value by default. Did we set, are we manually setting? Let's look at our, yeah, I set this as date time is now. So do I want to keep that as today? Yeah, why not default it to today? That's fine. We can keep the departure date today. Our calendar should also identify that it defaults to that same day. Also want to display this a little differently here. Trip start. Oops. I took the @ symbol off. Let's see. Somehow my Twitter's got opened. I want to see what the chat room is up to. So my trip start, and then I want to toString this string is going to be a formatted string of, should be able to do it this way. These, I can never remember these off the top of my head. Date, month, year. Capital wise, is it? I can never get that right. What I don't want is all the minutes and seconds and all that nonsense. We're not going to show all that. And then the calendar is inside of our Flyout panel. And the calendar is going to show... Oh, I got to see this. I love XKCD, by the way. Yes. There are different ways to... Yeah, localization is going to be something that gets tackled in Blazor proper eventually. So I'm not worried about localization right now because it's a good one. There's no support for it in the framework yet. Refresh that. I need to rebuild to see that change. And then the calendar, I want the calendar to default to that time as well. I'm trying to remember the value property name. I think it is just date. Selected dates. Selected dates with an S. What's cool about the calendar, the Telluric calendar, is I can disable dates. I can specify that you cannot select certain days, which is really cool for something like this app. Value equals form dot date. Start. Trip start. Boom. Big M, small y. That's what I always forget is, thank you, Code Monkey Dave, is which part's caps and which part is lowercase. And that makes a huge difference. Very big difference. When you switch those out, you get very unexpected things happening. So now I've got the proper date formatting, thanks to Dave. I click that, and look, my date is selected. Close that. No update has occurred, even though they're on the same field, because we're not doing any data binding. I just set the value, and I didn't set any state has changed or anything like that. Let's look at an example real quick, make sure I'm doing this correctly. Pick one of these dead tabs here. Oh, I just saw something interesting. That actually updated. Even though it's not connected, it just updated. That's weird. I've never heard of that one before. Geek Poke. Oh, Geek and Poke. .typepad. Huh. Cool. I'll have to check them out. Thank you. Let's see here. We want... Actually, I wanted demos. Demos.telluric.com. We got for Blazor, and our calendar, and selection. And we are doing... selection mode, value changed. These are manual operations. We're not using data binding in here. Why not? I'm not sure why we're not using data binding in our calendar. We are not using it in our calendar. Let's see. So we manually handle the onChange event in this one. Probably have the data binding updated in a future update. I think the reason for this is on standard input components we have this, and it's an ease of use thing, I believe. So a date input has binding, and we have bind-value. The weird thing is these validate, and when you validate, I have a whole show on the confusion that's behind it. If you ever want to handle the manual operation, then you have to specify the type. Then you run into a whole weird thing where you can't trigger the event without setting T to string or T to whatever you want it to be. It's a long story. Won't get into it again. But our calendar has other uses besides a date input device. It's display as well, so binding with model attributes and stuff isn't always necessary. So we're going to have a change event for this. So change event. This actually doesn't need to be anything more, I believe, than a delegate that says to set form dot trip start to the value. Let's see, value changed is going to send a date time. So we would send in an argument e dot, not getting a telesense because I'm not closing. This is the only downside I think to Razor is sometimes you have to close everything out before it understands where you're at. The argument is just e. So pass the argument to the value change. That should set it. Let's see if we got it just that easily. So now we should be able to click, open, click, close, and it is the 9th now. So that works. So this date picker is pretty nice because we can click on the month and we can just jump months really fast and easy. We can click years and we can actually schedule out really easy. We could go back to today just like that. So it's a nice UI component. It's better than this for sure. This thing is, this is the built-in HTML widget. It has some of these features in it, but this is a little more user-friendly, I think. So we can select dates very easily that way. What I'd like to do is when I click on it, it closes itself. So there is going to be an actual delegate behind this. So we need our index.cs. On date clicked. Let's see, public. Let's see. Do we want async? I don't think we need async for this. Void. No, we do need async. Async, because we're going to close that panel back. Task on trip date. On start date. Selected. We will do things. We need to pass in the date time as the selected date. And then in our event, we will then handle our form value trip start date equals selected date. And then we will await the date panel and close it. hide async. Go back to our view and change our value changed event to on start date selected. And for some better screen visibility here, I'll just move these down. You see they're both part of our calendar. Rerun this guy. Not sure how I'm going to handle all these flyout panels. Seems like it'll be a lot of them. We'll see how it turns out. Whether it's a keeper or we need to try something different. I do like the Delta style there. So we can select our date, click it, boom, moves back. Now our date is selected. So then we could potentially remove this. We're not going to get validation off of that though. So we'll have to see how that works. We are setting a form up though. So what if we don't apply it to an input box. We still have the validation. It's validating the model if I'm not mistaken. So we might be able to just pull that off of our inputs. And it'll still validate based on the model. Our input doesn't necessarily have to be within the form, I think. Again, this is a thought experiment at best. Just kind of hacking away at this as I go along. Select that, estimate trip cost. Nothing fired for validation on that. It's not going to be invalid probably ever though. Because it's required, but there's no way to nullify it. We'll have to try this with another value as well, and then see if that one validates. I don't think there's any invalid state for that unless somebody had manually wiped out the date. And with the calendar component, you can't select no date. So that eliminates that possibility. Hope that makes sense. A date back in time, that's not in our validator, unfortunately. So we do need to, we can, instead of adding a validator for that, what I would actually want to do, and now's a good time to do it. So that's good, good feedback there. Kickson, 1987. What we can do is we can disable dates. Actually, no, I think it's min. Min is going to be and I'm reading the IntelliSense because it's probably too small for you guys to read. It says sets the minimum date allowed on the calendar. Ah, okay. Kicks in his biscuit in Danish. Good to know. All right, so this is the minimum date allowed selected. So let's say it is today. Nick Larson. Nick just raided with 4 viewers. Thanks for the raid, Nick. I'm going to say I apologize. I'm not familiar with your show. So please feel free to type in chat there what your show's about and how people can find you. What are you talking about and stuff. So let's try date time now. Date time now. So if I open this form, the calendar will only let me select today or after today. Happy Thursday, Nick. All right. So our app is popping back up, and based on some feedback here, so viewers that just joined us with Nick's crew here, let's see, you were pair programming a competition. for a computational problem next week. A JS13K programming competition. Don't know what's a JS13K. Don't know what that is. So my Danish biscuit friend here said, what about invalidating inputs that are before today? So what's really cool about the Telluric calendar is that we can set that min value. And now look, I can't select a day that's prior to today. In fact, I can't select today. So this needs to be, maybe I don't want people to book dates in advance. Maybe today's not an option. If I wanted to, I could say add days -1. That would allow me to select today. So we'll put that in because the default is today, and that would conflict with our default value. Make a full game that runs in the browser using a total of 13K or less. Oh, that is very cool. So I've got some friends that do these type of things all the time, Nick. And they are amazing people at 2Scoop. Ooh, that's not a good noise. Something just died. I don't know if that came through the Twitch stream or not. 2scoopgames.com. Nope. Got it wrong. 2Scoop. Come on, guys. 2Scoop Games. What's your website? 2scoopgames.com. 2scoopgames.com. That's what I thought I wrote. I must have misspelled something. They do stuff like this all the time. And a lot of their games that you see up here started with exercises like you just described. And there's all sorts of really cool stuff in here. This was a similar game, Nick, where instead of the challenge being 13K or less, the challenge was an unsuspecting weapon or something like that. So the weapon your character uses has to be not the norm, right? So what they came up with was your character is a carrot, and your carrot is the weapon. I'll mute that tab for you guys. So your carrot is the weapon, and yeah, you stab stuff with your carrot point. So those are really cool, fun exercises that you can do. Yeah, these guys are so awesome. They really do some really cool work, and I just jumped through the map somehow. But yeah, this was something they did. Oh, I touched a rabbit. You can't touch the rabbits. Rabbits are bad for carrots, apparently. You have to stab them just the right way. But anyway, it's they've got all these little things that they do. And they come up with some really good ideas because they have these challenges like you're talking about. And we've actually, Telluric, we've hired them to do some stuff for us. And they've made some really cool, fun games for us. So, let's see. I don't know. I don't think they list it on their... They have another side company, 2Scoop. Let's see. 2Scoop Games, 2Scoop. They have like a commercial site as well. There's my friends. 2Scoops Interactive. So they have a business profile as well. And this is what they did for us. So these guys, they did a game with our brand, our Telluric brand. And you fight bugs. It's really cool. See if it's still... Yeah, it's still up online. I'm going to hit mute this tab because I don't want it to go screaming into your ears. I don't know how loud the desktop sounds are coming through. But, well, you guys could check this out. It's pretty neat. There's other components to it that aren't in this part of the game. But when we're at conferences and stuff, we pull this up and we have our Kendo UI product running with it. And they made this game to play, and then we show all the stats using our UI components. So it's pretty neat. So you just match up the colors and you kill the bugs, and it gets faster and faster as you go along, and there's more and more enemies. If you hit so many of them, then you die. They did a great job. And then there should be a score window that shows, but it won't do it on the web version. You have to be at our booth to see the high scores. It's good stuff. Love indie devs. They come up with some really cool projects, and those guys really are unique. Love the game dev community. All right, what did I error out on? Something's not happy. I'm gonna just close that out. Hopefully the app, I think, is running in the window here. It's not happy with me. But anyhow, we set the value, we responded to the input, and we also blocked out the ability to enter dates that don't work. All in 3 settings. So the calendar has now fit into the project perfectly. Let's see, what else can we do here? I'm curious about something. Sorry, this may be a little ADD of me, but I'm going to go back to the Delta site for a second. I just thought of something I want to check. I want to see what element they use on their drop-down, or their little thing that initializes their drop-down. So they're using a div. Let's see. I'm trying to see if this is the clickable area or not. It's hard to find the event handler. I don't see any buttons or anything, though. So I'm assuming that the click event is the actual element. Oh, there's an input there. There is an input there. So the input has a tab index and everything. So they're triggering, that's a -1, so you can't actually tab to it. But they do have tab navigation. I'm trying to figure out how I can tell what I'm selected on. So there's the form. Here's the input. So date 4, there's a label there. No, that's not a label. That's a custom component. I was just kind of picking at seeing what they used. So it looks like they may be triggering the event off of an input. Interesting. Something I'll probably mess around with later. I know H2 is not the right thing I want to use, or a div, to trigger a UI behavior. So it's actually a button click. Roll button is okay. It's not the best. I may be totally breaking any kind of accessibility by making this fancy. I know the components that we build are keyboard accessible and all that good stuff. What I'm wrapping around our Telluric components probably is not. That's kind of the point I'm getting at, I guess. So I'm going to build that out. We've got our date selector. I want to add to my Flyout panel. My Flyout panel currently has a fixed width. Don't like that. I want to add a property to it. And this is just going to pass down the width property to, and it's a string. This is really easy stuff. String width and get set. I'm just going to pass this off to my width property like that. And I'm already using it somewhere. I don't want to break anything else I've already created. We'll just go ahead and set this to 50% as the default. And that'll be the default experience out of the box. That'll at least give us something to start with. And then we can modify that as needed. And then on this page, I think 50% is going to be too much. And now I can say width equals, let's try 25%. Did I put the percentage on the wrong side? This is, I don't know if this is something other people do or not, but I notice I do this myself all the time. I invert, where did my thing go? Flyout panel. Yep, I did. I invert these all the time. Percentages go after. Boop. And I'll do this with dollar. I'll put the dollar after sometimes. And I know that's wrong, but I still do it anyway all the time. Sorry to be completely out of view. Is it possible to make server-side Blazor semi-PWA so that it at least make a shortcut to the site? Okay, so apparently that is something you can do. Answers back in the chat room. I've never thought about that myself. The idea of a PWA is that it has offline capability. I think that's one of the requirements for it. However, that offline requirement can be met by just saying the app is not connected, if that makes sense. So, in other words, you have to fulfill the API of it has some type of offline capability, but that offline capability can be a screen that says the app is offline and cannot be used. You just have to have all the files capable to load the application. Okay. Yeah. So I've done some PWA work before, and I think that is exactly what I ended up doing, is the offline bits simply displayed a message that said that you needed to connect your app to get certain functionality. With pre-rendering, I guess you can do some of that. Get all the files to the client. They'd store those on disk, and then if they tried to hit the app after it's offline, then it would say, hey, you're not connected, so this PWA doesn't work in offline mode. Let's see. So I was setting the panel. So now my panel doesn't fly out all the way across the screen. Since it is absolutely positioned, I don't think I can set it to where it is going to only take up the space it needs, but that looks a lot better. I think that's closer to what I was looking for. I like the fact it has some white space, but not so much that it's smearing off the screen. Let's actually shrink it a little bit more and see if it cuts. I want to see if how it handles when the content is too large for the box, the surrounding box. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for the comments. Thanks for answering some of the chat questions as well. Kriskin or Kixon. I keep thinking of the name Kristen. Not a Danish biscuit. Yeah, that cut off. That's kind of what I expected to happen. That's not good. That is not good. 25% is good for that. I'll have to see if there's a way to... I could always calculate these things using that calc function. What I don't want is my UI clipping all over the place. This is going to change dramatically. I'm going to have to figure out a different system for that. That percentage doesn't work. I need like some media queries or something that kick in and change that width for me based on the screen real estate. This is not mobile responsive friendly at the moment. Not in the slightest. Oh, I think I can do away with these and set them via CSS. Have the media queries do that work for me. That's something I have to check into. I'm going to keep this for now. It works on desktop. I will make it mobile responsive after the fact. That's kind of the opposite of how I like to work. Really, to be honest. I like to do mobile first and then pick on these desktop things after. But I am in a time crunch for now, and this is the way I've started it. And I'm going to have to keep working. There's some things in Blazor that I think still need to be kind of understood. And I think responsive is going to be one of those things because we are not in JavaScript. And I think one thing that we need this is going to be limited in some capacity to what we actually need it for. I hate to say like this is a utility we need because I think people will use it for the wrong reasons. And when we expand and contract our window, we need an event in C# to tell us that the screen size has changed and to give us the screen dimensions. And we have this in JavaScript. This is called media. What is that API called? There's an API that does all of this in JavaScript. Oh, come on. My brain is not working today. JavaScript, media. If I do media query, it'll probably come up. It's like match media, something like that. Yeah, match media. Look at that. So JavaScript has a function called match media that will tell you if a screen size matches a current a CSS rule, a media query rule. So if I want to say when my screen size is less than 700 pixels, can I check that value on the screen size change? If it is less than X value, then modify some UI behavior. And nothing like that exists yet. We can do CSS and media queries. Those things are great. And they work to a certain extent. But at some point, sometimes you want the UI to behave differently. And you need to be able to do that at the code side of things, not just in the style side of things. But my fear is that if people get a tool in their hands like that, they will completely ignore media queries and only use the coded version of it, which is also not the best practice. So, little sidebar. Too many of those today, but we're getting some ideas out, which is good. This is all just brainstorming. It's still prototype mode. Still coming up with some ideas. It's a new framework. It's new tools. It's a good time to do this type of work, this experimental stuff. So I'd want to do this for some of these other things as well. And let's just flesh out a couple more of these. And we'll take a break here and resume tomorrow. So what I want is another flyout panel. And I want to name this guy. And this one will be my departure. panel. And then I'll have another one that will be my, is it arrival or destination? Destination. My destination panel. Thinking these may actually need to be inside of a form. I don't know if that's going to mess with my styling or not. Actually, these will get elevated out of the form anyway, I believe. Oh, this is tricky. But what I essentially want to do is move this into a panel like that, which these need to be in a content element. Flyout content. So I can fly these out when I need to. And this is all in a Git branch. If I don't like the way this turns out, I can always just kill it. So in my code for this, I need some more of these panels. I'll just duplicate this guy. And I want my nope, what was it called? Let's drag this off and put it side by side. That's why I like code behinds. I have my departure panel. And my destination panel. So I have those two panels in my component where I can access them. And now I can fly those things out when I need them. And I need some button-y things to trigger that. So again, I'm going to put a div up here. Not permanent, just ideas. On click, I will then this is going to be, oh, I broke this. On click is killing the tooling for some reason. This is going to be departure, clicked, roll button. Disclaimer, not best practices. Form, selected, destination, or no, selected departure is going to be the actual value that I'm selecting. And I don't have an event handler. I know that. So I'm going to shortcut over to it by control clicking on that one. So I will then, on departure clicked, I'll open up that panel. Since there's essentially nothing in this, don't know that I really need all these. They're just opening. I don't know if I need to go to my code behind for all those. We're not doing any other type of work in there. Famous last words. Watch me have to go redo this in a moment because I'm going to have to add something. So I can just put that code here if I need to. Show async. And I can do the same for the following. Instead of creating all these methods that really don't do anything except for show a panel. The real work is done when we click on something in the panel and close it. So this one is going to be destination panel. And then inside, well, let's see what this does. All right. So now we can show those panels. Let's see what they look like. And let's scroll down, make sure you even set them up correctly. We've got the refs. We've got the panel. We don't have a width. 50% is what we're going to start with since we made a default value for it. And now my thing got shorter. I don't have a value to click on. We need to set a, let's go into trip configuration. Let's set a default value for the selected destination equals select. This is going to break validation, by the way. This is why I'm not too big of a fan of validation annotations. So the word destination, I will need to rethink some of these things. I'm putting some big changes into this form, really. Selected port of entry. This is the wrong value. I've got the wrong values. I actually want the selected port of travel. I'm going to say the word departure, though. Departure, destination. Those are in the correct location. The index form is not correct. The selected destination should be selected. Form dot selected port of entry. That's where I'm going. This one should be selected departure port of travel. So I'm departing from that and I'm going there. I may actually want to hyphenate that into two things. We shall see. So when I say hyphenate, I mean Earth dash port, Mars dash port. So I've got a the full output. So now I have, we're leaving on the 8th. We're going to select, it's not clicking. It's not clicking. Let's make sure this, I broke these. So these events, it doesn't like the lambda expression for that click handler. That's interesting. Wait. That's what's wrong. I broke it. I was almost going to put it back. Then, nope, it doesn't like that either. It doesn't like await. Await cannot be used with lambda expression without the async. All right, these are too wordy for me. Does it need an add? No, it's the async await. This is show async, so I need to await it. And then this needs to be an async event. I don't know if it's the correct thing is async here. Async await. Like this. It just gets very verbose. It's too much, I think, for it. That is the correct signature. I mean, that does work. I don't know if I want to keep that in my markup. That's sloppy looking. It's a matter of taste, I believe. But that is why those panels aren't opening. I gotta close this guy. It will pop itself back up. This is reloading. ConLab, though, thank you for the input. Nope, that still didn't work. It's still not triggering. I'm getting console errors like crazy, too. Required a cascading parameter of edit context. Oh, I know what the problem is now. Had nothing to do with this. Had nothing to do with this. I put my panels outside of my edit context. So these drop-downs require an edit context. They have to be inside of my edit form to work. Because edit form, if you're not familiar, edit form has a cascading parameter value that needs to be fed into these drop-down boxes in order for them to work properly. And I screwed this up again. I don't like the names I chose. I'm never going to like the names I chose for these. Let's see if we can throw those these UI bits where I put them. If the flyout panels still work like this, they do not. They do not. This needs to be rethought. This needs some rethinking. So, I wonder if I can, without an onValid submit, the way the flyout panel works, it has to be attached to the root of the application. It can't be. I'm grasping at straws here. The flyout, the form actually needs to be inside of the flyout content. And I'm messing this all up. I need to copy this. So I'm going to give it what it needs. So it has to be in a form. We'll give it the form. We're going to have more than one form on the page with this. Hope that doesn't cause any issues. Edit form. Has a missing tag. No, it doesn't. I think it broke the editor again. Oh, I know what it is. I'm broken. I'm missing a tag. I'm not going to have an onClick event on this one. This is really messy right now. So we'll have our edit form. That gives it the context it needs. I may rework those to where they don't need a form. Oh, this is a chicken and egg scenario again. How do I keep getting into these messes? I didn't mean to run that. That's not going to work. What was my compile error? I keep hitting undo and accidentally redoing this. Like, this is the third time now. Port of travel. Save. Run. So the initial form, the way the fields were set up, they require the model to validate and all of those things, because the flyout panel, it still didn't work, because the flyout panel is rendered absolute. Requires cascading type edit context. I added that. Input select 1. Requires but I gave it an input select. Or I mean an edit context. It's in an edit form now. That's, oh, that one's not. I put it on the wrong box. I put it on my calendar. So when I was on my calendar component, I was explaining this whole scenario. That calendar doesn't use an edit context. It's a view component as well as an input, so it's not always required to have validation and forms and all that. It doesn't have to be in a form. The dropdown, which this is actually another component that's wrapped. The input select is what is inside of this. Needs to be within a form. and it has to have that edit context for it to work. So now they have to have forms around them. Since the way the flyout panel is rendered, I can't put the form around the flyout panel. The form has to go inside of the flyout panel. Because if the form is around the flyout panel, the flyout will try to appear within the form, which is absolute positioning. Then it looks crazy. It doesn't do this. It tries to appear within the form itself. Now I've got my stuff working though. Look at that. Yay. Close that. Oh, I love that. Selecting the value. So those need to be the text of the item, not the selected value. Oh, ouch. It's making my head hurt. These are showing the indexes. The idea's there though. I got the form off the page, guys. So then passengers would be next, and then we'd still be able to submit this. I want to see what happens. Well, these say departure and destination. So those fields are required. So there's some validation still happening. I'm going to have to modify the validation. But it essentially does work. It just shows the wrong data on the screen. Now we just need to set a passenger, and it's still able to generate the data. So we're still working with the form, and the form is still within validation bounds. It's a little hacky, little bit, not bad. Not bad hacky. It's not terrible. It's still an idea. Once it's out of the idea phase and I'm like, this is what we're shipping, if it's still, we still have forms everywhere and there's H1 tags or H2 tags with click events around them, then yeah, it's hacky. But this is a start. We'll come back to this tomorrow. We'll jump into this tomorrow. We'll try to fix these up, make everything pretty. The idea is to have all of our trip information on the screen. And if we want to change a piece of our trip information, we click on that piece of trip information. So these should say Sea of Tranquility. This should say Mount Sharp. And when we click on it, we can change it. Passenger count, maybe we'll put like some little icons of people, the number of them, something like that. We can click on and do some selection that way. And then all of our data will be first and foremost on the screen, and it'll all be interactive. Then we can hit estimate trip cost, and will give us our value. And we'll have a button that pops up that says book trip, and then we'll go through some other gyrations to get the trip actually booked and on our flight. But I got the big form. Like if you visit a website and there's like this form that goes all the way down the page, the next thing that somebody's going to hit is this button right here. Gone. So we're playing around with some UX ideas. We'll keep toying with those tomorrow. We're going to try and get all those done. I'll go back through the app again and weed out all of the missing UI bits. Like there's some admin sections that only allow you to create new records and not edit. Do you think I need to replace the... I think spelling is off there. Data to... if you can fix that last bit of your question, I'll try to answer it. I don't know what that says. Data to? Need to replace the data to? Not sure what you mean there. There's still a lot of work to be done. And we'll do that. Let's see, in the UI. What did I have in the UI that needs to be replaced? Like these need to say the proper location. So that one would need to say Mars when we come back. These would need to automatically close too. Sea of Tranquility, and then that will close. The text will be here. We'll replace passengers. We need to fill in this data. To do that, we'll need to go into ports, admin. I need to be able to do full CRUD on this. I can add a new record. I can't edit a record. I want to be able to click on an edit button and pop this window and edit a record, successfully write it back. So I can put some latitude, longitudes in there. Yeah, time until trip. Gotcha. We're going to set some values up. Time until trip we can do. So we'll calculate that based on our date. So if we select the 31st, it will say like 12 days, whatever that is. And then we'll estimate a time in distance. We'll put some fudge values in for those, and we'll have all that. Yeah, we'll have time left until trip and a value, and what we select will affect. Yeah, we'll start finishing that up. In order to get there, though, in order to get all that information, there's going to have to be some more metadata entered in. We need to have some estimated values. Time until trip should be, yeah, I like that. Should be T minus because rockets. Yes, let's make a note of that. I like that. Let's see, time until trip. Let's put a label for now. We'll class this up again. H3. Is it second? No, title. No, not title. It's a title dot new header. Nope, that's not it either. H3 dash. There's an info. Darn you, Bootstrap. Docs. Heading options. No. Heading. There is a... There used to be. Maybe I'm thinking Bootstrap 3. There used to be a lighter heading. Or maybe I'm thinking Foundation even. Been doing this too long. Muted. Ah, there it is. There it is. I'm not crazy. I am not crazy. If I was crazy, I'd be talking to myself and not live streaming right now. Without an audience, just talking to myself. Never done that. Time until T minus. So I'm going to put a value in there like that. Let's see if that makes you guys happy. Like this is what you're looking for, I think. I know. Sometimes I wonder if you guys are actually real. So yeah, we'll have time until trip, T minus X time, and then we have our price, our trip time. Let's throw some placeholders in there. We never put placeholders in for those. Why did we do that? Why? Total price, and we'll put text muted. That's a span. I'll follow suit. Span. Text muted. Trip time. Span. Class. H3. Text muted. time trip. Just put 15 hours. Just putting placeholders. Trip distance. Oh, Jesus. I'm going to look silly if I don't know this. Was it like 38 million miles or something? I don't know. I don't remember how far the distance is to like Mars and the moon. It's far. How about that? I wouldn't know if they were bots, real people. Who knows? So we have outputs now, mocked outputs, which need some space separators, some punctuation, but you guys get the idea. So our left-hand side will be our inputs. Right-hand side will be our outputs. We will have buttons. It will be an app. We have our destinations. We have our details. We need some imagery. We need a lot of stuff. I need to get to work on this tomorrow. We did 3 hours today. We'll probably do 3 more tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining me today. Appreciate the input, especially here at the end. We got some stuff stubbed out. C# Fritz is online. I know everybody loves Mr. Fritz. We got 8 viewers. We'll bring everybody over. We'll go see what Jeff is up to. Shows that he's online. Let me double check. Oh, he's offline. He was online, and he must have just signed off. Let me try another. Let's see. Relevant Jess is on. Jess is a good guy. Is it Jesse? Relevant Jesse's on. He's a good dude. He rated us last week, which was nice. He is doing some WinForm stuff. He was working on a bowling scoring game yesterday, and he was refactoring and doing some cool stuff. So we'll jump in and raid him, see what he's up to. Join me tomorrow. I'm gonna try to be on at least noon, if not before noon. Scheduled time is noon. I may start early if I can. I don't think I have any. Actually, I have a meeting starting in like 2 minutes, so I have to go today. But we'll see what we can do tomorrow. Thanks again, guys. Say hi to Jess for me. I won't be able to stick around. I'm immediately going into a meeting with my boss. So thanks for joining the show. Take care.